Hey there, welcome to Chicken Fried Grove. I am your host, David York, and this is my co-host, Sara Mosley.
Hey, y'all.
And we are excited to welcome you today. We have got a really interesting couple topics in our Deep South portion of the podcast today. We're going to be talking about Southern engineering. And I will have you know that I was raised by a master Southern engineer. So I have got more stories than the time will allow from Southern engineering.
More stories or war stories?
Both. War and more. But yes, some of them could be classified in the war category. War as in, hey, I don't know if we're going to survive this Southern engineering because it is not necessarily, always the solution that has the greatest level of success. We'll just put it that way.
It ain't safe.
In a related topic, speaking of things we don't trust, we're going to be talking about the AI trust gap. There's a couple reports that came out in the last week, and there was a thread in both of those around trust that I thought was really interesting. And actually, had just read one, and then I was looking, and somebody had posted about the second one, and trust was the theme there. So we're going to kind of dive into this trust around AI and what reports are saying, and then get in. But without further ado, Southern engineering.
Yes.
So I wrote about this in my book. I told a story, which is, it is a core memory of the winter when I grew up in Oklahoma, as many of you know. And there was a winter when we had pretty significant snowfall in Oklahoma and the South in general, right? You don't get big snowfalls as a general rule. You will get a couple inches here, 3 or 4 inches there. Like a big one's like 5 or 6, right?
Oh my gosh, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole nother thing about Southerners driving in snow, but we could save that for another day. But we had a big snowfall, like a 10, 11 incher in Tulsa one year. And so my stepdad, he basically had got this wild hair that he wanted to create a sleigh. And as a Southern engineer, what you do is you don't go like, well, let's go buy a proper sleigh, because you just don't have, a lot of cash on hand usually. You're looking around. So what did he do? He did what every good Southern engineer does and said, what's in my garage that I can turn into a sleigh? And God, I wish I had the pictures, and maybe we do somewhere buried in my parents' basement. But we took the bucket of a wheelbarrow.
Awesome.
So that dark green, rusty wheelbarrow bucket, removed all of the, we removed the wheels and the frame and all that type of stuff, and just took the bucket part. Okay.
Okay.
Took a couple of wooden boards, maybe 2x4s, probably. And then we took 2 old water skis. And this is the 80s. So this isn't like, these aren't like, the real cool water skis. These were like our kid water skis. So they were like super wide and, ugly and just terrible looking. And we took those. And so we literally bolted the water skis onto the wood and onto the bucket.
I can see how this is going to work.
Can you now?
It seems like a good idea.
Yes, exactly. So this was our sleigh.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. And so then in a just a moment of genius.
Right.
My dad said, "Hey, we're going to get the ski rope from our ski boat.
Why wouldn't you?
Tie it to the back of our pickup.
Oh my gosh.
And you and your brother get in that sleigh and hold on tight to that ski rope.
Yes.
And we're going to go through the streets of the neighborhood on the sleigh."
Because what you want to do in the South when it's snowing is drive first off.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. With rear wheel drive, right, vehicle that has no traction or any type of bearing on this
What do you
snow.
need traction for?
So yeah, so we're bundled up, and I can see it now. I feel like we were probably like 10 or 11. This is about the age that we were, and we just held on for dear life. And I mean, we're whipping around corners, and the sled is kind of like sliding around. You know, you can imagine, like, this is harrowing. And so what's happening is, again, Southern engineering, you don't have like diagrams or, you know, a CAD drawing or anything like that, right? There's not any like thought going into like, if we do it like this, it's going to work like this. It's just kind of like, we got some wood, we got some skis, and we got a wheelbarrow bucket.
Who needs math the measurements? Come on.
Sleigh time. Yeah. And a ski rope. And a truck.
You got all you need.
What ended up happening was the snow was relatively deep, and our sleigh was only like maybe like 4 inches off the ground.
Okay.
It was like a 10-inch snowfall. So we're driving, and this thing is kind of like plowing through the snow, not kind of like
not dashing,
sleighing, you know, through the snow. It's not elegant at all.
On top.
You know, it's not on top of the snow. It's kind of like digging in. And then me and my brother in the back, we're kind of like, you know, between the two of us, it's a couple 100 pounds. So what's happening is the front of this thing, it's just slowing. And as we're going, the snow is just starting to pile up and pile up and pile up on the front of the sleigh.
Oh my God.
Bucket. And it's kind of pooling until it's up above the bucket of the sleigh. We've got this thing. And then, of course, as you can imagine, as it's getting higher and higher, the wind catches the top parts of the snow, and it's just like
pelted,
pop, pop, like big chunks are just flying off and hitting us, you know, just indiscriminately, wham, wham. And we're going like 20 miles an hour through the neighborhood, and it's just like pop, pop, like,
oh my gosh,
never ending destruction of snow in our faces. But I will tell you, like, to this day, all of us will still talk about that feat of Southern engineering. Well, I mean, maybe feat is too generous of a word.
I don't think so. I think it is.
It was a feat, all right. So that's just story number one. I'm gonna go to story. Where
was your mom when all this was going down? My mom would have had a heart attack.
I have no idea, honestly. Like, I don't remember
the kids are outside getting my Calgon.
Yeah, if I look back in my mind, like, I don't have like an image where she's standing there looking at what we're doing with arms folded like a mother should be.
And her two beloved children being dragged behind a truck.
You know, she was probably just, maybe she was cooking lunch or dinner or something. I have no idea, but like, we should have had some oversight in this entire situation. We definitely should have had some oversight.
Right.
All right. So that's one that I'll give you. And then the second one, which I think is also worthwhile, is my mother had a 1980, I was like a 1981 Buick Skylark.
Oh, nice.
If you've ever seen, just like a little, you know, kind of looked like a Pinto, but it was a little bit more aerodynamic and sportier looking.
A little bit cooler.
Yeah, a little cooler, but it was made out of like, I don't know how thick the steel was. I don't think it was made out of aluminum. I think it was made out of like steel. Like, this was a fiberglass. This was like when a car was made out of metal. The thing was like a tank going down the road. So we had, and it was a 2-door hatchback.
Yeah.
And it had these really kind of long extended doors, and I swear they weighed like 400 pounds.
I believe it.
Like, when you shut them, you had to like put all of your weight into it. And we were little kids, so we had to like two-handed, like,
finger never got caught.
Like, you didn't just, exactly. And we would be like, get your fingers out of the way, I'm shutting the door. You know, that kind of thing.
Everybody in.
But that car had the flimsiest like door handles. They were not made from steel or anything metal. They were like, I think the handles might have been like fiberglass or even like some kind of heavy plastic.
Right.
So the door handle at some point snapped in half, like the
Wow.
long way. So you have a door handle that's, let's just say it's 4 inches long and like right in the middle. So you had two pieces on either side, and you needed them to both like coordinate them together to get the handle up.
Get the
Again,
door open, right?
the 80s, we weren't, flush with extra cash. So again, my dad, the Southern engineer that he was, went out into the garage and like found a little piece of like, thick kind of metal, and it fit the right side, and basically was like, all right, well, got the drill out, drilled some holes in the handle, slapped the metal underneath it, and then put some screws in, and boom.
Nice.
It worked.
Hey.
Yeah. Coordinated. It always
What do you
worked.
need another handle for? You got this one.
Well, and man, that was the strongest handle on earth. That thing was reinforced with like steel behind it,
That's right.
So that car, and that car was kind of like a whole entire Southern engineering vehicle. Let's just call it that. It was a situation where it was a hatchback, as I mentioned. So it had the hatch that you would pull up, and it had like the two little, I don't even know what they're called.
Hydraulics.
The hydraulic little things that when you pull it up, and it made that little hissing when it goes up and down. And so it would go up, and well, at some point in the lifetime of that car, the hydraulics basically like gave out, and rightfully so. The hatch probably weighed like 500 pounds.
Right.
Like literally, it would be like it'd take two hands for you to hold the damn thing up. It was so freaking heavy.
That was your daily workout.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of going and fixing the little hydraulic things or getting replacements for those, and they may have only cost like $20, who knows? But we don't have to. But what we did is we perfectly cut a 2x4 to the right length, put that baby in the back of the hatchback. Anytime we needed to hold that thing up, when we went to the grocery store and were loading our groceries in, you would two hands lift it up high, then you grab your 2x4, just right here, 2x4, boom.
Perfect.
Gold.
And you've got a makeshift bat if you want to play baseball a little later on.
If you needed to, yes, as long as you didn't need the hatch to stay up,
right,
you could use it. But otherwise, you couldn't. But yeah, so in the back of that car, there was always a 2x4 cut to the perfect length,
right,
to get the maximum height of opening of our hatchback.
He could have called it his guillotine defense mechanism.
Well, I tell you, I mean, there was definitely some fear in everyone's, because when you let that thing go, because with the hydraulics, you could just push it down gently. But when those were out, if you would push it up a little bit, lay down the 2x4, and then you basically like ran.
Yeah.
You would go, you would jump away, you would let go and jump back at the same time. And it was like, whack, like it was just an absolute massive thing, because it weighs so much. Yeah, so Southern engineering, these are the stories.
I love the old janky cars.
Well, so this car also, when you put the key in the ignition, the little thing that turned, back in the day, used to have that little shiny, chromy looking thing, and you put the key in, then there was like two little kind of finger things where you could turn with.
Right.
Well, that whole thing broke, and then and so you couldn't if you put the key in, it didn't have like the thing to kind of hold it all together. So you couldn't turn the key because it was putting too much pressure on the key, because you didn't have those two little things to turn with.
Key.
Yeah. So, and in the 80s cars, it didn't really matter. So we just took a flathead screwdriver and just stuck it in there and just turned that bad boy. We didn't even use a key anymore.
Oh my God.
We had a flathead screwdriver. And we just, whenever we were done, we would put it in, start the car, and then just stick that thing in between the seats, and it would be there for anyone to take. Anybody that would have wanted this car, all they would have had to do was just sit down and grab the screwdriver and go.
Have the screwdriver that's ready and waiting for them.
Yeah, exactly. No keys necessary. We didn't ever lock the damn doors. You just go.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, I love it.
yeah, this vehicle, like I said, it was like an ode to Southern engineering, the whole thing. And we called it because it was so heavy and so it was called the Beast
Of
because
course,
it
who
was
can
yeah.
survive anything?
Yes, because it was made out of like freaking steel and it weighed like 2
Your
tons.
Franken car.
Yeah, oh, it was amazing. Yeah, it really was. It was like we
I love
had
it.
there's so many fond memories of the Beast in our childhood,
Oh
good,
yeah.
bad, or indifferent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fond, good in that sense, but there's some layers to that onion, if you will. So
Oh my gosh, I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, and I could go on, like I said, I could do a whole hour on Southern engineering. Like it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, there's just Now, I will say I did buy a part yesterday, which, kind of hurts me from a Southern engineering standpoint. I did order the actual correct part rather than just going into my garage.
You felt like you
And
betrayed the sensibilities
it
you
was
grown
a
up
small,
with.
yeah, it was a small betrayal because it was like, I'm going to go get the right thing and fix it the right way.
Right.
Um, I was a little bit disappointed in myself,
Right. I guess I have to care
but
about my kids' safety and health.
yeah, but I will say this. The garage door in my house. I moved into this house like 6 years ago. It was kind of janky when I moved in here.
Right.
And man, I have done a number on that thing. And
My
it has got it was, cause man, I'm like, it broke the other day and I was like, and I was looking at it and I have already put some reinforcements on. I don't know what the person did before, but
right.
I think somebody backed into it or something
Well,
at
those
some
are like
point.
3 or 4 grand to replace or fix.
Well,
There's
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
And so I looked at it and I was like, oh God. And I'm like,
We're not doing that.
3 or 4 grand. I'm like, Home Depot, $20.
Right.
Done.
Tape.
Yeah. No duct tape. I did buy a few screws and some washers and then had to, put some things together. But yes, put that thing back together in a functional state. I mean, it's still a little sketchy, every time I open, I'm like, is it gonna fully open?
Do we need the 2x4 to hold it up?
I'm like, well, I don't know, but I think it is. All right. It's
so
yeah, it's been a couple weeks and it's still working and behaving properly. So
yeah,
good for us.
yeah. I like Southern engineering.
Oh
it's
man,
a fix, and it didn't cost
yeah.
you anything.
Well, this or cost you a lot less than it should have costed you
significantly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you may wonder how long it's going to hold up from time to time. You may feel a little nervous about it, but
we developed
certain things
trust issues.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right. Decapitation.
So speaking of trust issues,
yes,
the perfect segue. AI trust gap. So this is interesting because I read a couple reports. And I want to go through a couple things with you. So the first one is the small business kind of industry insights around small business owners and their use of AI. So here's a couple of things that are really interesting. So their adoption is kind of growing. 50% in 6 months, they've seen growth, 50% growth in small businesses.
That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And they say basically like 74% of small business owners are using AI.
Okay.
Of some type. But, and this is the thing that I kind of honed in on, 78% of small business owners don't fully trust AI to handle low-level tasks without oversight, despite those being the tasks that would save them the most time.
No.
Yeah.
That surprises me because you would think the low level, they'd be like, okay. But the high level, like, But they don't trust them with the low level.
Yeah, and 78% is not a small amount of people. That's
nearly everybody.
That's an overwhelming majority. It's not like 56%. I mean, 70.
That's a C plus.
That's big. Yeah. That's a big bunch of people. And small businesses generally, from what I've seen, even other reporting through over the last year, small businesses typically have higher adoption rates. But
Yeah, they're nimble, and you know, like
exactly.
in the book and stuff, we talk about how, you know, they're able to adopt things a lot faster because they can
Yep.
move on it quicker and flex with it.
Yeah, but yet the trust issue is still overwhelmingly high
That's
when it comes
big.
to AI and trust and fully trusting it. All right, so that's report number one. Report number
Right.
two is called the HG Insights B2B Buying Disconnect Report.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Mufasa. Buying disconnect. It sounds
Yes.
it sounds so ominous.
Yes.
But here's what I'll tell you about this. This is interesting. So this is B2B folks talking about how they buy technology, and
Right.
so the top 5 resources consulting during their buying process. Number 1 was your own prior experience, beating out
Ooh.
demos, user reviews, the website, free trials, personal experience was number 1 for that vendor.
Okay.
Now, the second thing I want to highlight is trust with AI as it relates to B2B tech buying,
Okay.
which overwhelmingly only 22% of people say they trust AI very often or always when it comes to B2B tech buying.
Okay.
Majority of people saying they sometimes trust AI, so they're just very much in the
Okay.
middle. And then there's people that are down on the lower end. But
They're
I think,
cautiously optimistic.
yeah, exactly. So I think is interesting. Both of these reports came out. They're both really on completely different topics. One's about buying technology. The other one's about adoption of AI.
Right.
But they both highlight this kind of central theme,
Of
and this
distrust.
buying, yeah, it's trust. And this buying report's interesting because it also kind of tells you something a little deeper, which is the human experience, human lived experience
Yeah.
is still heavily, heavily outweighing, no matter how amazing and capable and interesting and hyped up all of the AI is, and its
Right.
capabilities and how it can help us with buying and all this type of stuff. We're still going back to our own personal experiences. We're still, the trust gap is still pretty big. I
Right.
mean, on this B2B buying, only
Right.
20% of people very often trust AI's responses and outputs.
Well, you know, what's interesting about that is it kind of comes back to, you know, how you're always talking about, you know, humans are the key to adoption and humans are the key to AI success. And if there's distrust in the relationship, it's not going to progress as it
Yeah.
should until that gets resolved.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like the other part of this I think is interesting is we're not talking about like trust issues as it relates to AI companies or, that they're going to do the right thing or any of that. We're just saying specifically like the output that AI gives me about a product
Right.
and my ability, my confidence in AI to be able to do low level tasks, not even complex tasks, low level
This
tasks
is me. Yeah.
is really, really, really not there yet. And yet we're still, we're kind of 3 to 4 years in on this thing. And
Yeah.
we still have this gap, which goes
It's
back to,
significant.
yeah, it's not, yeah, it's a big number still,
Not small.
right? Like it's a much higher number than I would have expected it to be this far along in this
Yes.
process. And I think that it's just, it highlights to me the reality that yes, AI is, I would still always, if you ask me 100 times, probably 100 times, I would say that AI has the ability and can be a transformative technology
Sure.
with how work gets done, how businesses run, how we buy things, all those types of things, right? Like I think there's still a significant upside to AI that we haven't even, realized yet.
Right.
And yet the human side of this is still coming through like loud and clear. Yeah, which I think is really interesting to see it. And it's coming through loud and clear in these surveys. Like, hey, I trust my own lived experiences more than AI.
Right.
And maybe even AI is creating a pendulum swing a little bit
Yeah.
more, a lot of that hype and everything else. And people are like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the thing I trust most,
Yeah.
which is my own intuition and my own ability to get something done, and
Right.
myself knowing. And I still feel like the verdict is still out on all this AI stuff, which I just find fascinating given the amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of inner effort that's being put into all of this technology.
Yeah.
And yet we're still here where people are like, are we sure?
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
So yeah, so there, AI and Southern engineering, right? We got parallels between the two. We got to trust
giving you
gap.
trust issues.
Yeah. Exactly.
Entertaining, but giving you trust issues.
Entertaining and fun, but you may not fully trust it.
No, but it might get you.
Yeah. In other words, just like you wouldn't rely on your Southern engineered solution to be something that in a life or death situation,
Right.
you're not going to rely on AI in a life or death situation.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
And so here we are. But yeah, so I thought those were two fascinating reports. I thought that was they kind of were a little surprising to me.
I'm surprised we're not further along.
Yeah, yeah.
You would think there would be more trust, and to get back to it, it does blow my mind that the small businesses, which are your nimbles and your quicks, are still having trouble delegating the low level stuff, which I would think they'd be like, "Badoom, get rid of it. Low level, you got it," and they're not, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I'd be curious, and I didn't look this deeply into the back end of the data, so shame on me. But there are like how small those small and medium sized businesses are in that case. Like, does trust increase as a business gets a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller? That's an interesting look at that, right? Because if you're kind of a mom and pop small business, right, you might not be in a place where you need AI to do it, or it's like, oh, you're bookkeeping and that's the one thing you could use AI for, and I don't want to use trust AI for my bookkeeping because I run a dog kennel or something. I'm just throwing out ideas. So that may be the type of category of tasks may have an impact to the level of trust based on the small business type and all those kinds of things. There's obviously you can only ask so many questions in a survey.
And there's less permission to fail in a small business. There's a little bit of more of an insulation, I would say, in your larger corporations, because you do have some permission to fail because there's always somebody else you can blame it on. Just kidding.
Well, yeah, it was someone else. It was Jerry.
Yeah. Dang it, Jerry.
Yeah. I agree with that. Right. Like, there's less margin for error in a small, medium-sized business in many ways, in many cases, where you don't have the luxury to, experiment, so to speak, and try something new and shift the way you think, which again, probably represents an opportunity. It represents an opportunity to say, like, how can you help small businesses trust AI and get to a place where they trust AI, right? And again, a lot of it is that, well, hey, maybe they're just fighting to keep their head above water because of economic and market conditions, and so they're just like, I don't got time for that type of a thing, right? But trust is a whole nother thing. So, anyways, we've gone over because my Southern engineering stories were so captivating.
They were. I like that story.
Like I said,
possibly gave people great ideas on how to fix their own cars.
Well, potentially. I mean, I don't think you'd get away with that now, but because the door handles like work differently now. They don't go like creak creak like they used to. It's like, but anyways, and there's technology built into that stuff now. Back then, it was just a piece of metal and a couple screws, and off you went. So, the
Good old
80s.
days.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Feel free to watch any of the episodes you have not or listen to them on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And we will catch you next time on Chicken Fried Growth.
Bye, y'all.